So women are struggling in general. I hear fear of blowing up their life, fear that they're going to create the same reality that they've done before, the same kind of partner, afraid that on some level that they're going to drop into some of the patterns of people pleasing, giving away their independence, afraid that maybe they're too old for intimacy.
Welcome to the Blueprint Breakers podcast. What is a blueprint breaker? If you live your life outside the typical traditional lifestyle blueprint, you are a blueprint breaker. We are here to start a conversation, to assemble resources, and to build a community. This podcast is for empowered women in midlife and beyond who are preparing for a powerful next era of life. My name is Amy A. Palmer. I am your host and facilitator for our conversations. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. To stay connected, up to date, and to receive all of our free resources and gifts along the way, join us at community.blueprintbreakers.com. Today, we dive deep into the world of love, self-acceptance, and relationship patterns with Junie Moon, who has guided thousands of women to freedom and self-love. We explore her personal journey of overcoming self-criticism and unhealthy relationship blueprints, shedding light on what she calls next level love. Junie shares how shadow work transformed her life and offers insights into recognizing and shifting unconscious patterns that hinder our ability to form genuine connections, discover practical tips for breaking free from detrimental relationship habits, and cultivating self-worth. Join us for an inspiring conversation about reclaiming your truth and opening your heart to a healthier, more authentic love. Let me tell you just a little bit about Junie Moon. First of all, I've never met Junie in real life yet, but we discovered as we were doing our podcast interview, we were literally like one town over from each other. So we are definitely going to be connecting and talking about all things love over lunch sometime soon. Junie Moon is the CEO of Midlife Love Out Loud. She's a global love mentor, international best-selling author, award-winning speaker, women's empowerment leader, and certified shadow work coach. She's supported thousands of women over the past 30 years to claim what is their birthright, the freedom to be and love themselves without apology. When women experience this freedom, they attract lifelong next level love and experience an extraordinary second half of life. You can connect with Junie at midlifeloveoutloud.com and enjoy our conversation. Hello, Junie Moon. Welcome.
Hello. So good to be here. Yay.
It's so nice to talk to a fellow blueprint breaker.
Yes, let's break some of those blueprints that we think are it and they are not.
Right. So today we are here to talk about love. So I can't wait to dive into this. I know that you've supported thousands of women in finding the freedom to be themselves, to love themselves, and where that takes us. So before we jump into it, I'm curious, how did you get on this particular journey?
Yeah, well, everything I'm teaching is something that I had to learn. I do have so much love for myself. I call it self-love in action now, where if I even have the voice in my head that's like, oh, you're fat or you're ugly or you're too old or no one's gonna want you. Like, even if it even shows up in the slightest little squeaky voice, I'm like, whoa, like old message, not valid. And I love my life, and I've experienced what I call next level love, where I could just be myself without apology and not jump through people's hoops. But your question is like, what happened to get me here? And this is what I base my work on. I walked on eggshells for most of my life, being afraid to just be myself. I was afraid to be judged. I was afraid that someone would criticize me. I mean, that was what I grew up with my mom and kind of implied with my dad of like, I better be a good girl and be the best I can be. And I just brought all of the programming, the blueprint, as you said, into my marriage of 20 years. And it was hard. I mean, look, there was a lot of good stuff. I'm not going to just say it sucked. I was in it for 20 years, but I was in it for 20 years. And I suffered. I ate a lot of food to manage my emotions. I was 200 pounds. I was so scared of just relaxing and being honest and sharing my truth. And it came with a price, and I micromanaged everything. It was exhausting. And when I hit that 200 pounds and some other stars lined up, I discovered it didn't have to be that way. And I found this body of work called shadow work, trained in, and I was able to not only see, because this is where a lot of personal growth work ends. I was able to see why I was acting that way, why I was so scared on some level to be left, or I was feeling unlovable. What was that about? So I understood it, but it didn't
Mm,
end there. I was able to really embody it and shift it and heal it. And it wasn't even a long journey to that shift, even though there's always more. Uh, and I claimed my truth. I claimed how precious life is, and that I deserve great love, and that I'm lovable no matter what. And that shifted everything with all of my relationships, and especially the one to myself. And yeah, that's why I do the work I do, because I suffered greatly and I cracked the friggin' code. And I want other people to know, especially women, which is my target uh, group of people that I absolutely adore, that are just like, I don't want to be like this anymore. And I support them in shifting and healing and claiming their truth and their life.
mm, love that. Love that. All right, so let's dig into it. You mentioned next level love.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah, I
and
didn't know
and
what
how
it
do
was
we get
until
it?
yeah, let's like sign me up, right? I didn't know what it was until I experienced it, truly. I left my husband, and I I did what I tell people not to do, which is I jumped right into another relationship. I always tell people process, but I had done so much work in my marriage. That's another topic. So I fell into a relationship that was like, "What? I could just relax and be myself. I don't have to constantly think about how to be for him. He's just loving me for me, actually supporting me and honoring me in all the juicy ways that we want as women to be seen and heard and cherished." And it was just such a beautiful relationship. So next level love, as I see it, is two pieces. One is for myself. I can just be me. The voices, the programming, all the crap between my ears has been dialed back to such a low level. Because, hey, we're human beings. There's reasons we have the inner critic and all these things that tell us be careful and all that. So it's there for a reason. So sometimes the dark, edgy stuff comes up, but it's so little. So I have that for myself. So I can just go out into life and not be working so hard to be something for other people outside in. I could just be me. That is so freeing. That's next level love for me. And in partnership, to experience what I had with that man. It didn't last for circumstances. It's a long story. But the long story short is I based my work on that beautiful, loving partnership where I was like, wow, I can just connect with this man and be loved up for just being me, and to be met with such beauty. So that's next level love.
Mm,
No
that's
conditions.
beautiful.
No conditions. I'm lovable if I do this. I'm I'm lovable if I look like this. I mean, like, we do all those things
Yeah.
to ourselves, and there's a reason. But I've freed myself from so much of that, and that's what I support my clients with.
So how do you get it? How
Yeah,
do
how
you
do you
how do
start?
you
Where do you go?
call it in? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. How do you get it? Well, it's not on Amazon. Though my book is on Amazon, but it's not on Amazon. It's not something you can get delivered, sadly. I think the biggest thing, and it's not rocket science. The first step is being aware. It's being aware that something doesn't feel right, that you're working too hard, that it's the opposite of next level love. You find yourself in your head so much, strategizing in your fear and constricted, feeling your body constricted. And so the first thing is to be aware of it, because if you're not aware that something's not working for you, you're not in that place of, well, how can it be different? And so once you kind of drop in and say, well, the partners I call in, or my relationships that I have, I'm not really relaxed and I'm really trying hard to not have drama or have them love me. So when you get into that question and curiosity of how can it be different, that's when we can start to really shine a light on the programming. And so how do we get it? We need to be open to shifting and changing. And that's a scary thing because as human beings, we are born into survival tactics. We have negative bias. We're always looking at what could go wrong. And it's all
Mm.
about staying safe. But when we're willing to stretch and not just jump out of our comfort zone, because our comfort zone feels comfortable, but to be able to stretch our comfort zone with new information like this podcast, like this interview, to be able to even say, is there something I can do differently? Is there a way I can be differently? You are now stretching the comfort zone of more possibilities. And with shadow work, the body of work mostly that I bring to the table, because to me, that was the hugest transformational piece. We're shining a light on the unconscious realm. Like what's behind the scenes that's creating the blueprint? What's behind the scenes that's creating the drama or having you feel like you can't just be yourself and love your life? And once we're able to
Mm.
tap into what is the 95% of your brain, the unconscious realm, and able to go, oh, this is why I'm like this. This is what I've experienced in my life. And then to empty it out and shift and claim something new, that's how we can embody a whole new way of being.
Mm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, for me personally, I've been out of the dating scene for a long time by choice because I
Yeah.
just haven't felt ready. All right.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of what you were talking about when I was in the dating scene and I was having relationships, I was attracting I was calling in the wrong
Yeah.
stuff, and
Yeah.
because I was under like a time clock, like, you got tick tock, tick tock. I got to hurry up and find my
Yeah.
partner, right? And so
Yeah.
that pressure and desperation as you get older. Um, so with the women that you work with, what are some of the struggles that you've seen or heard from them, and why
Yeah.
do you think it's been such a struggle?
Great question. I also want to just address something you said, which is I keep calling in the wrong person. And I want to offer to
Mhm.
you and everybody else that has that, because it's a biggie. What's the struggle? Oh my God, he looked different. He sounded different. Everything was different until it wasn't. And it's like, oh my God, there he is again. There's the same patterns again. There's the same drama again.
Yeah.
And I'm going to offer something controversial. In fact, because of how you said it, I've never said this before. You actually attracted the perfect person for you. You actually attracted Mr. Right for you. And that might sound really like, what? But he was a narcissist, or he wasn't present, or he was absent, or whatever it was. We, from a shadow work perspective, and we probably should talk about what shadow is in a moment, but from this way of looking at why we call in or attract a certain type of person, it's because of something inside of us that's not healed. It's the universe's
Mm.
way, if you will, to say, here's a mirror. Yeah, here's the same guy again. What's going on? And to me, that's actually a gift. It sucks. It's painful. I've done it
Yeah.
way too
Yeah.
many times.
Yeah.
Uh, it's information on what's going on inside of you. So if you attract somebody that is abusive, what is it about you per se that doesn't feel like you deserve better, or that you could have somebody that's going to treat you like gold? So I'm just going to leave it there as one example, but you asked me, what do people struggle with? So one of it is, I'm afraid of blowing up my life. It's great as it is. This is a common one. 40s, mostly 50s, 60s and above. I hear this often, but it could be any age. I love my life. I don't want to be a nurse or a purse. That's what they say. I love
Right.
that. I don't want anybody to come in and be a handful. Like, they're looking at from all the information that they've acquired from their experiences in the past, thinking that's going to be the reality in the future. And that's where we need to start, which is like, well, that's not true. I just started seeing like the most amazing man. I'm like, oh my God, that like information from the universe going, you're on the right track. Cause I'm like, this is so different than anything I've ever called in before. And I too was consciously single because I needed to look at what else am I wanting and what else is getting in my way. So women are struggling in general. I hear fear of blowing up their life, fear that they're going to create the same reality that they've done before, the same kind of partner, afraid that on some level that they're going to drop into some of the patterns of people pleasing, giving away their independence, afraid that maybe they're too old for intimacy, their yoni, their vagina is not working the way it used to, hormone. I mean, there's a lot of things in the second half of life that women are scared of, and can a man meet them in a healthy partnership? And the answer is 100% yes, because I see it all the time with my clients. But it starts with, what is the thing that they're struggling with and why? Where did it come from? And what did we say, I better never do that or try that again because it hurt me in the past, AKA shadow. Let me throw away certain aspects of who I
Okay.
am so I don't get hurt. So ultimately, the biggest struggle is people are afraid they're going to get hurt for whatever their story is.
Okay.
Did
All
that make
right.
sense?
So when you say shadow,
Yeah.
you're talking about the parts of yourself that weren't working for you?
Let's dive into that. So, thank you. So, it's a term from Carl Jung. There were a lot of different people that do a lot of different things around shadow work. I'm in the original body of shadow work, trademark shadow work, extensive training. And so the shadow, the concept is the disowned part, the part that we don't like about ourselves, or the part that we're afraid of revealing. So if somebody got highly criticized or even little criticized when you were a kid, you might have gotten a message that you better be a good little girl or you're not going to be loved. This is not a conscious belief.
Mhm.
This is something we pick up and we soak it up as little kids. That's what we do. We don't have that discernment. And so this really wise part called the risk manager, this part that's like, let's make sure you don't get that punishment again or that abuse again or feel left again. Let's just throw away, let's disconnect from that part that maybe raised their voice to mom or dad or the sibling, maybe that part that took the toy from your sibling and you got a message, you're selfish, be more generous. We get all this information and we go, well, I better not be selfish. I'm just going to be a people pleaser. I'm just going to be generous all the time. I better not express myself. Let me throw away my expression because last time I did that, I got punished. So let me just zip it and just
Mhm.
look good and do all the things I'm supposed to do. Let me not speak up or speak out because when I expressed myself in my anger, I really got hurt. So let me just cry because that seems to be acceptable. So the shadow is some part of us that we say we better not be like that because bad stuff will happen.
Mm.
However, we throw the baby out with the bathwater because we need our expression. We need healthy anger. We need our light. We need all of who we are. We just need to harness the energy in a healthy way. These strategies came on at a young age to get us through, to get us, to keep us safe. And then they stopped working. And that's where the rubber hits the road. That's what we're talking about here. It's not working anymore, expressing ourselves, being the people pleaser, and all that stuff. We need to take our power back, our voice back, our truth back, our authenticity back.
Mm. Yeah. Whew. And as you describe that too, it does seem that sometimes we as women are our own worst enemy. And, we set things up where we're sabotaging ourselves.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, that's the risk manager. That's the part inside of all of us. And we need that part that's discerning. And is this a good idea? Should I go online? Or maybe I should wait a little bit and get some support. There's all of that.
Mhm.
So if there's that part inside of you, and there is, that's going, oh boy, she's about to go date again. And the last time she did it, it didn't go well. And she's got a
Mhm.
history of having all this abuse or this uh, horrible relationship patterns or whatever it is, that part's going to go, okay, this is not a good idea. And it thinks very in extremes, black and white. And it's going to
Mhm.
say something like, oh, there's nobody for you. You're too fat. Or, why don't you just eat a tub of ice cream? That'll calm you down. It sabotages us so that we don't feel like we're ready to go out there. Or it sabotages us if we go out there or we're in a relationship and we're not being truthful because we're afraid that somebody's going to judge us. Now, to your question before, which is like, how do we do this? How do we get this? So much of this is unconscious. Like I said, 95% of our brain is unconscious. I have this program called the Relationship Toolkit, not the fanciest of titles, but it is a toolkit where it helps you shine a light on what is going on. Where did these patterns come from? And I take people on this journey, and I'm mentioning this because I have a contest. I want to give you the link for people to win this program. It's a wonderful coaching program to help you finally break through. Not only just acknowledge, like, I guide people to be able to go, oh, now I understand where the self-sabotage is coming from. It's not just going, yeah, I self-sabotage. It's, oh, I'm terrified that someone's going to leave me again. I am terrified that someone's going to cheat on me again. And so if you're terrified or on some level, like, I don't want this to happen to me. And again, consciously we know that, but unconsciously, there's that part that's so scared of being vulnerable and opening up our heart. If we're not in cahoots with that risk manager and being proactive and in the driver's seat, then the unconscious is in the driver's seat and you will trip yourself up, think you're not ready for a relationship when you very well might be, stuck in old patterns and self-sabotage, because that risk manager, its job is to keep you from pain, and it doesn't know how to take baby steps until you teach it how to do baby steps. So I'll definitely give you the link for the people to win that coaching program.
Awesome. I'll be sure to put that in the show notes so that they can access it. That sounds wonderful. It sounds like there's a little bit of just peeling back the onion, the layers, a little bit of deprogramming and identifying, because it feels like it's like getting over PTSD a little bit sometimes.
Totally is. I mean, seriously, people sometimes think, well, I didn't have big trauma when I was a kid, like those people, right? I had a really good childhood. I mean, I'm happy to
Mhm.
say that when I look back, I'm like, wow, my parents loved each other. It was a very peaceful, happy childhood overall. However, my mother was very sick when I was a kid. So I learned mommy isn't always around and I don't have the support that I need. That's traumatic for a little kid. Or sometimes, because I was always the overachiever and I was like that because I got the kudos. Look at her. She's so put together. My little girl is such an adult. I'm like, ooh, I'm loved. So then sometimes if I dropped the ball in some way, I would just get a look and my heart would fall into my stomach. And I'd be like, oh my God, I'm not
Mhm.
loved. I better try even harder. So not big capital T trauma, but big capital T trauma in the sense that I took on these beliefs. So we need to peel back the onion. And that's what the toolkit does. It's like, what is the relationship story? What did you learn? Where did it come from? And then let's build some healthy boundaries, how to speak up for yourself, how to embody your truth and take a stand for yourself without pushing people away. How do we open up our hearts safely and vulnerably so that we can connect more deeply with people, not just blasted wide open, but in a conscious, safer way that we can allow people in? I mean, as women, we want to connect so deeply and we want to be seen. But so many women, again, as you said, what's the struggle? Walls around their heart, fortresses around their
Mhm.
being. And the guys are like, well, I can't
Mhm.
even get in. So we
Mhm.
need to embrace the reality that we are that onion and it's peeling back layer by layer, going, I don't need this part inside of me. And I can take a stand for myself. I could know my value and tell myself and feel it in my bones that I'm worthy of love. So these are all the pieces, the different angles of healthy discernment, knowing how to choose, how to move forward in a safe way, how to take a stand and have a healthy warrior that's like, yeah, no, and a healthy yes and a healthy no, and be able to really breathe into our hearts and know we're valuable and we can let people in. And that takes some time. It doesn't take years. it definitely is
Mm-hmm.
a journey of unfolding. I'm still
Mm-hmm.
unfolding. However, it doesn't take years to have huge shifting. You just need to see that there's some wiggle room here for change. And if you're willing to, then things change, and beautifully, consciously, energetically.
So the steps that you describe, are those the steps in order to break the patterns and establish something new, or is there anything more to it at that point?
Yeah, in general, like when I work with people one on one, and even in the toolkit or anywhere I do, the first step really is, what is it you're desiring? What do you want? Can you even imagine what you want? Because sometimes you can't even go there because there's such a huge, yeah, not going to happen for you. So we need to start with
Mm-hmm,
where
mm-hmm,
you're at and to see the price you're paying for it. Because sometimes it's like, yeah, my life sucks. I've been single for all these years, or I'm in a relationship and I don't feel seen. I don't feel like he has my back, like whatever it is. So to be able to go, this hurts and I don't want to do this anymore. I
mm-hmm.
want things to feel better and I want to have more love and peace in my life. So starting where you are and then shining a light. I always say shine a light because we're talking about, the shadow, to really see, what are the beliefs you've picked up? What did you learn about yourself around relationships? What did you learn? What did your culture, what did your religion, what did your society, what did your teachers, what did your relationships with others teach you? What did your parents model for you? This is how you've learned how to be in the world. So we need to start to see your personal love story up to this point and what you would like to shift. So there's where you are. This is what I've learned. These are the beliefs I have. There was this one client, I'm just going to tell real quickly. She came to me and she was like in her mid 50s, never had a significant long-term relationship. She always attracted the same fixer-upper guy, and then she would sabotage it because it was exhausting and it wasn't for her. And she was starting to give up. And she's like, "Can you help me?" Because I had known her, and I was like, "Yeah." So she joined my program. And within a couple of months, we did this one particular process. And she suddenly saw the depth of her relationship story. She saw that her parents gave her modeling of love is painful. Love is painful. So that risk manager at a young age said, yeah, don't do that. Just keep
Mhm.
doing all of this and sabotaging it. This way, you never have to go down that path. She had this breakthrough. She saw it wasn't working. She knew she wanted differently. She realized her relationship pattern, what she learned about relationship, because this is all like, you got to do this part. And then she had a breakthrough with the shadow and she reclaimed her new love story. And within a couple of weeks, she met the man she's now married to. They've been together about 4 or 5 years. Soon out the gate, like she met him within 6 months. Actually, was it even 6 months? I don't even think it was 6 months. It was a few months later. She had a promise ring on her finger, and a couple of years later, she was married. And I met him recently. It was so wonderful. I was in her area and I was like, hey, so, and they're so happy. So that's the journey. Where are you? What do you want? What's getting in your way? What did you learn? What did you let go of? What are your beliefs about yourself in actually having something? What are your beliefs about men? Oh, they're stupid. They cheat. There aren't any good guys left. It's not worth it. I mean, we need to unpack all this because at the end of the day, if you're out there in the world thinking men suck or men don't have the capacity to truly be honest or loving or present or any of those things, you're going to continue to call in the other type until you can really shift. And it starts with ourselves being our own soulmate and knowing we're worthy of love.
So once you help a woman sort of unpack all of that and sort of just be ready and healthy and open to that next level love, do you continue to work with them more on the tactical side? Like
I actually
how do you find them? Where do you find them? And then should they approach dates differently than you know what I mean? Like just
yes, yes, and
the
yes.
nuts and
So
bolts of it.
yes, yes, because many people ask me that. So it's been years of me training for that very piece because people come to me and they ask for that piece. They're like, just tell me how to online date. And it's not working, my profile, the people, the whatever, or who they're calling in. And I say, I can absolutely, and I do, give them the nuts and bolts of what are the best sites, how to write a profile that stands out, how to call in the right people and push away the people you don't want. I have amazing results in helping people with that next step. With that said, it's the cart before the horse. If they haven't done the unpacking of that U-Haul of all the things they've picked up, and they bring that U-Haul to that online dating experience, they're going to have the same reality. So I always say, I could get you in a relationship next week. I can. But do you want just a relationship or do you want the relationship? And some people are like, no, I just want to have fun and go out and meet people and have, somebody, a companion. Yeah, totally. I know how to do that and I know how to support people. With that said, for my clients, typically when people hear me speak and we talk, I see and I share with them what is happening that's creating the struggle. And again, it doesn't take long, maybe a few months of really shifting and healing. And then some people will just go off on their own, or they hire me to support them in writing the profile and getting them out there and calling in a very different person. I'm going to give you a quick example just for myself, actually, because I can tell you a lot about clients, but this just happened with this guy. So I started seeing this man, and he told me this story because his profile had certain things that stood out, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna swipe and see what his jam is," right? Wasn't a lot, but it was enough for me to spot certain things, and again, I teach people, look for this, and so we're seeing each other, we're having a great time. He told me the other day he was at getting a chiropractic adjustment, and his chiropractor friend of his said, "So are you dating?" And he's like, "Yeah, I just met this great woman, look at her profile." So he shared my profile with his friend. And you know what she said? She said, "Oh my God, she's you." My profile was written in a certain way that showed him, this is who I am. So he was drawn, and he said that as soon as he saw me reach out, he was like, "Oh my God, I can't wait to talk to you." That's what you want. You want a bold profile to come forth in your authentic expression. And you cannot do that if you're in your fear. You cannot do that if you don't know yourself. And so we must let go of the past, claim what we're really wanting without apology, and be bold so that we call in someone that's like, "Oh my God, I've got to meet her," and not just anybody. And that inbox might be a little quiet, and that's okay. If you have one date a month that's spectacular versus 10 dates that suck with guys that don't treat you well, like have a great life. And that's really what I'm teaching now more than anything is your partner might come in a month from now or 5 years from now. Create your life the way you want it. Design it that in a way that feels great to you, and the universe will match that.
I love your approach and your energy towards it all, especially since I've been out of that world for so long. I've been looking for hope and optimism, and you bring a lot of hope and optimism
Good.
to it.
Good. Because there should be, and not to shit on you, but yeah,
Yeah.
there's I meet
Yeah.
some really great guys. They're not all for me, and I have some amazing men in my life, and a lot of them are single. I do this event in December called the Dating Do's and Don'ts Retreat, which is nuts and bolts for those that are ready to take the next step. And I do this man panel, and I bring in all these men to share their side of it so that women go, "Oh, they're struggling too." And to also see that there are some really great men. And a lot of these men are people that I either had that first date with or are dear friends of mine that I'm like, I want women to know that there are good, precious men out there, that hope is, may you have hope. May you be inspired and inspired to just keep creating that relationship with yourself. Because when you can take care of yourself, and I'm not saying pay your bills and shit, we know we can take care of ourselves. But when you can really have healthy boundaries with your heart and be able to take good care of your spirit, you're going to find somebody that will match that. I see it all the time, and it is hopeful and exciting. You just got to want it.
So where can people find more about you, connect with you, etc.? Where do we find you?
Yeah. So Midlife Love Out Loud is kind of the name for everything. So midlifeloveoutloud.com is my website, and that's where my podcast is, which is Midlife Love Out Loud, and my YouTube channel, which is Midlife Love Out Loud. So there's a theme here. And if you go to my website, there's a ton of resources, and also to try to win that contest as well, because that's a great opportunity to dive into what is your relationship story and giving you the tools to have that healthy boundary, to love yourself, to have that self-worth. I mean, all of that.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Junie. This has been a wonderful conversation. I'm looking forward to meeting you in real life. I love your,
I know.
I love
We
your
just found
energy
out
and
that
your
we're
approach.
like close by. Oh my God, I can't wait to meet you and give you a big squeeze. And
Right.
then we could go out
Right.
and well, I'm seeing this guy, but we could still go out and go, oh, what would you do? What would you do? Let's go out dancing. Let's have a party.
Right. Exactly. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of the Blueprint Breakers podcast. Get ready for next level love. And a very special thank you to my guest, Junie Moon. And thank you again for listening and sharing this episode with your friends. If you haven't done it yet, please join us at our Blueprint Breakers Facebook group. Have a great week. Keep on breaking those blueprints and rewriting your own.